At Germanic Wellness, we are looking at one of the major crises that we currently see in our modern world by connecting multiple states of awareness and consciousness and implement it and integrate it within our modern day living. So one of the first crises that we can really see, especially for men as well, is number one, the mental health crisis. So many of us are dealing with high levels of stress and anxiety, feelings of burnout and chronic fatigue, and we have low levels of energy and vitality. So many of us suddenly get diagnosed with ADHD, ADD, and the list goes on and on and on why we can't seem to function in this world. Then we have the crisis of masculinity. It is really like through our food supply chain is that masculine energy, and the political agendas that we currently see in our world is that men become more emasculated from themselves. And why that is first of all is that young men, 20s, 30s, into the 40s, never really had any kind of, let's call it, an initiation from boyhood into manhood. And the only initiation we can basically find is going into video games and ranking up into kind of a virtual reality. But in the real world, we don't really seem to accomplish really that much. Then of course we have the financial crisis. The economic crisis that we see is that so many of us, we can actually really feel is that we live in a top-down economic system that's being controlled by some kind of elites, by global corporations, financial institutions, governments, and where it seems that the normal working man really simply get exploited through rules, regulations and taxes, inflation, and the list goes on and on and on. And we are simply living paycheck to paycheck and we can't really seem to get ahead in life. Furthermore, we could also recognize that we simply still live in the emotional dark ages and we are too afraid to confront our own inner demons or shadows. And that's why we can't really offer, as a man stepping into our masculine energy, is offer any kind of emotional stability to our counterparts. So the divine feminine energy can also rise up in our world, and instead what we are seeing is that man, woman, the masculine family is currently being divided, and the whole family structure is being divided. That once we do our work, we play our part as men, is that we can become that rock in the ocean and that we become the safe harbor, so the ship, the feminine, can berth alongside and deliver her cargo. And because we are still living in the emotional dark age as well, it's also kind of really safe to say is that we in the Western world, we are basically at the edge of a spiritual bankruptcy, where basically just in the movie, the film The Matrix, when we are plugged into the Matrix and our soul and our spirit gets sucked into this whole system we are living in. So these are one of the few issues and problems that we see, and why too many men simply give up at participating and trying to get ahead in life, and they kind of really lose their touch with their primal energy to get better, is to accomplish, is to achieve, is to conquer, and is to tune into the energy of being the warrior, because the warrior get out there and achieve his goals and build his empire and become a king. Once a king can build his legacy, is be able to provide for his community, he can further tune into his lover kind of energy, and through the lover he can tune into the magician, the channeler, the healer, the shaman. So at this channel, Germanic Wellness, we focus on a few kind of concepts that is very well connected with each other. Number one, it is health and wellness. Because let's face it, our whole modern diet is coming out of a phase of global mass production. The whole food industry is basically, we are living off highly processed foods, high in sugar, the wrong kind of seed oils that is completely messing up our hormones, our nervous system, we don't really feel grounded within ourselves, and the gut is creating enormous amount of inflammation, which is also affecting our mental health, which is of course causing perhaps levels of ADHD and whatnot, which personally I also have been diagnosed with. Through health and wellness, we can reclaim our primal energies, our masculine energies of vitality, which is needed as fuel or petrol in the tank. Because let's face it, if we go further into solving one of the major global economic crises, and where we can come together and create economies together, of course we can tune into, let's say, a turnkey business model. Let's say if I give you the key of a turnkey business model, then what else you need is of course the driving skills to drive that business vehicle, but also of course you need petrol in the tank, you need fuel, and that is of course your energy, your vitality. So first we must focus on our vitality, our health, wellness and self-improvement to master our mindset. Because the philosophy is really simple. First, we are building the body of an athlete. We are creating the minds of a stoic, self-improvement. We are tuning into the spirit of a warrior, and I will get there to a point. And through that, we can open up the heart and become the poet or the shaman or the seer or the channeler. So through health and wellness, we go into self-improvement, and through self-improvement, we become emotional mature, we become the stoic, we become detached from all our emotions and become a master over them. And through that, we can tune deeper and further into our spiritual awareness and consciousness, and we get into the heart of the poet, into the heart of the lover, the shaman, the seer. So besides all of that, we also explore further topics around shamanism and animism, especially when we look around the North European ancestors. So we look also into ancestral healing, because what is very important to realize is that we are right now entering the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution was that of agriculture. If we look here to North Europe, as I'm originally here from the Netherlands, the southwest of the Netherlands, we look to the Germanic ancestors and the Nordic and the Celtic ancestors. Their spiritual beliefs were rooted into animism, which of course is the spiritual practice and understanding, just like the Native Americans or the people in the jungle of the Amazon or the Sami or the Siberian. They all believed is that everything within nature has a spirit, has a soul. From the ocean to the sky, to the land, to the nature, to fire, to rocks, to woods, to trees, to birds and all the animals, everything is basically connected. And what we see in our world is that the system is doing very hard his best to disconnect us further from our own nature and the nature around us. So through building up this spiritual practice, we can, let's say, integrate more or tune more into divine spiritual archetypes that are being labeled as gods or deities, which really represents a state of awareness or consciousness that has been worshipped basically by our ancestors. But looking at them as an archetype, we can really tune more into our primal energies around building our divine masculine energy. Because from the agricultural age, when we were connected with animism, the whole North European spiritual traditions has basically been wiped out and slaughtered by, of course, modern religions like Christianity and the Catholic Church and everything that basically has been coming over from the Roman Empire and other European empires that has conquered all of North Europeans. From the agricultural era, we moved into global trade and commerce. So we can also tune into our ancestral awareness and consciousness from our global maritime history. If we think about the Dutch maritime history and other European nations, they had a very good understanding of commerce and trade. And after that, we slowly moved into the Industrial Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution turned into global mass production. And now we really come to realize is that we are completely exploiting the whole planet and the Earth resources. So now what we are seeing is we are moving into the fourth Industrial Revolution, which has everything to do with a new kind of digital revolution around artificial intelligence and blockchain and metaverses and virtual reality. But at the same time, what we are also seeing that within that new digital economy, we can indeed create our own economies. But what we're also going to see are more like new kind of social control system that is being created to keep everybody into lane as well. So for us as men, as warriors, as spiritual warriors, we must really dive into different levels of awareness and consciousness from our ancestors, so we become the whole divine masculine being that is right now very much needed in order to create the new earth. By once again building the body of an athlete, creating the mind of a stoic, getting into the spirit of a warrior, and opening up the heart of a poet, so we can look at the world from a broader, more holistic point of view, create high levels of empathy, sympathy and understanding towards each other, instead of creating more conflict towards each other. So this is kind of the philosophy of Germanic wellness. I don't only focus on the whole historical aspect of shamanism or animism or paganism practiced by our North European ancestors, but I look at more from a spiritual healing perspective that we can really use and integrate within our modern day life as well. Also, you will be discovering more around health, wellness, well-being, self-improvements. So if this is your cup of tea, when you consider yourself as someone who is on the path of self-improvements, become master over your own mind, emotions, and dive further and deeper into spiritual healing, shamanism, and practice a nature-based spirituality where we can dive into different kind of states of consciousness, so we can create order within the so-called the web of life, or the Akashic records, the infinite library of cosmic awareness and understanding, because the past exists within the present, and before history is repeating itself, we must create the order within the chaos.